Welcome. Quick introductions before we get into our content. We'll keep it brief. So I basically work in engineering leadership, people culture. My organisation, I'm in UK financial services sector. I work for NatWest. And a lot of my work is about building and nurturing communities. So this is a topic very close to both our hearts. I'm also currently the chair of BCS Agile. I took over that from our good friend Jose, who did that for several years. And I'm the organiser of Future Work Scotland. Scott is doing a huge amount of impressive work in business agility, looking specifically at helping organisations become more sustainable. He's also the creator of Being Beyond Better. He was one of the co-founders of Heart of Agile Scotland. So one of the things quickly is, Scott and I haven't known each other for a long time. People think we have, but we have this really sort of, feels like quite a unique collaborative partnership. We do a lot of things together, and we've done a lot of initiatives together over the years, and it just works. It just works.
Definitely. I think it comes back to the ADHD thing that Emma talked about. Sathpal's neurotypical, so he helps me.
Always good to have a neurotypical friend.
Yeah. Find one, yeah.
So at this talk, we're going to do some foundational stuff about belonging, and then we're going to bring it to life a little bit more around some of the kind of things you'd want to think about if you want to truly create and nurture a sense of belonging. And then we're going to talk about some real-world examples, some things you might want to think about in your own workplaces. And then hopefully we might have time for a few questions, but if we run out, you'll catch us. We're here both days. You can talk to us whenever you want. We're pretty friendly guys. So, in the beginning. So most of you have probably seen this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm not going to go through it. You'll be glad to know. We're simply calling out the fact that actually there's a lot of new neuroscience research which is now telling us that at the heart of everything, human beings ultimately want a sense of belonging. And that's really what we're talking about. So, in the beginning, Scott.
Right, it's a long day, you're all a bit tired, you're all a bit relaxed, everyone's bracing themselves for walking past whatever that smell was again on the way out. All right. I want you all to think about belonging and what you feel belonging to, and to do that, we've got some images because people, typically like images. So belonging. Think back to that sense that you had as a child. You come into the world, you've got that sense of belonging. Yeah. Then the school. Remember the school friends you used to run around with. Even now, thinking you can connect back to, that sense of who they are. And you can find them on your Facebook now. This is one of the only generation that can actually do that. Where family, remember like getting together with family, Christmases with family, birthdays with family. Every family is different. Your family is special. Perhaps you graduated. That sense of like the roller coaster of university, and then when you graduate, you've got that sense of getting through. Maybe the graduation's smaller. Maybe it's like you've done a course together, but at the end of it, you feel really together. Or you might be into sports. I think that was supposed to be Hearts, which are an Edinburgh fan, please. Or maybe it's a hobby you share. People often ask me what my hobby is. So I always say Agile, because when I'm not doing Agile, I do it in events and meetups and things. Or maybe someone's pulled you together. Where's Arton? Okay, round of applause, right? When we did the large festival, Arton was the ambassador for Ukraine, and in the middle of the war last year, I phoned him, and the line was terrible, and he was in a basement, and just that sense of connection, that one of us, one of our community, one of the people that belong with us. And last night when I met him, just amazing. Yeah, so beautiful. Maybe you get you belong through some kind of religion or spirituality. That's Beltane in Edinburgh, where if it's a really great pagan festival, you can go up on top of the hill and see people freezing to death semi-naked. Or maybe you're more spiritual, connected with the light. Or maybe it's at the end of the life, just looking back to what you've done and what you built and what you belong to. Right, that's what I mean by belonging. Why can't we have that in the workplace?
So, what do you see when you see belonging, and how does it feel? Put to the light this visual. You can see the kind of key terms there. These are the sort of things we think about when we think about belonging. You have a real good sense of connection. There's a lot of unity. You can relate. You relate to others, others relate to you. There's a strong relationship. There's regard. You have regard for one another. There's respect. And there's a sense of us, right? Scott showed that image earlier. This was many of us last night. Speakers and organisers getting together. There was a real sense of us and belonging, and a lot of us know each other, and we're good friends, and it was wonderful. Absolutely lovely. We like this slide. We also like this metaphor. You might have seen it before. So you can't truly have belonging without having diversity and inclusion. And in my sort of experience and perspective, you've really got to have inclusion to have diversity. But we love this analogy, it works really well. If you think about what we're saying here about belonging, ultimately what we're trying to say here is, when people really feel like they belong, they feel safe. And they feel like they can be their true, authentic selves.
Okay, there's 3 books we're recommending, but this is a Stanford book, Design for Belonging. Really recommend you buy it. If you look here at this graphic, and we're going to break it down for you. There's entering. The first one is an invitation, entering, participating, code switching. We'll talk a little bit about that. Contributing, flowing, and these are the elements that we see when we build communities. These are the elements I think we need if we're going to get sense of belonging in work, and certainly I can see some of this in our broader Agile community. So, as we said, we're going to talk through them now. So we love that mural. Inviting. So, I mean, at the heart of it, that's your starting point, right? That's the all-important introduction. What does that feel like? Is it explicit? Is it implicit? Formal? Informal? Whatever it is, you really want to ensure that it's enticing. It's a compelling proposition for others, so they might consider getting involved. Cool. Then there's entering. So entering's like a bit scary. Oftentimes I'll see teams come together, but we haven't done any kind of entering. They don't know each other. There's been no kind of team bonding. Maybe someone new comes out the team and they're seen as like third coder to the left, and they've suddenly got to catch up, and nothing's documented in the wiki, and nobody knows what anything is. Goodness me, anytime a new person enters your team or your situation, try and make it a wonderful experience. Stop working for the day, go for a coffee, buy a cake or something, find out about each other.
Participating. So this one's really about the mechanisms of engagement. What do they look like? What are the channels? At the end of the day, what you really want is to get people really wanting to be involved. Right? So the real world example I often think of is Q&A, right? Question and answer session. So you want to be clear about how people can actually get involved and contribute to that. So I run the Future Work Scotland meetup. We run events. As a host, I'm keen at the outset of the session to help people understand how we want them to engage through the Q&A process. And that will be different and vary dependent on 2 things primarily. One is typically the speaker's wishes, and secondly, the size of the audience. So a bunch of considerations there. Participation, really important.
Code switching, it's a term from anthropology, and it's probably one of the ones that you might not be familiar with, but it's one that we all do. So particularly if you come from a different background. I'm from the northeast of Scotland, so I'm not using my northeast of Scotland accent, because you can understand me, right? So when I'm in the house, I'm one person. When I'm in my family, I'm another person. When I go to work, I'm another person. When I'm in a meetup, I'm another person. So this sense of like we can be different people. So in your community, in your workplace, what kind of encouragement are you doing for people to be more authentic and not feel they have to act? Yeah, we don't want a situation where everyone's coming to work and acting or using someone else's style. Yeah, what's your style? Can you bring your style to work? Can you get more informality?
This is probably the holy grail. Getting to a point where people can feel like they can contribute. And when they contribute, they add value, and then they feel valued, and they contribute some more, and so it goes. And then over time, they build that sense of belonging. So this is really at the heart of it all. Contribution is really what you're aiming for. Not just passive contribution, active contribution.
Now, the other thing is flowing. So we do a lot of community work. One of the little tests I do as a coach is if someone doesn't turn up, like the product owner, to a planning or Scrum Master to stand up. Does it happen? Do people not do it? Can people flow into different roles? Can people have guest leadership, as Alistair Coburn calls it? Can people feel really comfortable? Because we talk about, self-organizing teams, but I don't think anyone ever helps a team to have that confidence to flow into different roles. Even things like DevOps. I remember one place we went, we got the DevOps people from Ops and Devs to swap places. The more flow you can get, the more you can turn leadership around. I remember one Scrum Master that he never did a single ceremony. He always rotated it around the whole team until everyone got comfortable doing it. So encourage flowing. Don't get stuck in roles.
Preparing. Things can and will go wrong. And when they do, it's important that you deal with them. That you lean in and you get involved and you understand what's going on. We actually had a real-world example of that in the festival. We talked about it earlier. One of our sessions, sadly, a member of the audience took offence to something that one of the speakers had allegedly said. It's quite serious. There's quite a lot of conversations around it amongst the kind of organising team. And then we looked at it, we explored it, we tried to understand what had happened, and we spoke to everyone and we took it to our policy team. I was part of that group. But this was really about trying to really understand what had happened and trying to improve the situation, speak to everyone, make sure they felt seen and heard. Because when these situations happen, often there's hurt, and you want to get a place where you're kind of moving away from that so they can start to move back to a sense of belonging. And it's very important that you don't overlook it.
Okay, dissent. Encourage dissent. Okay, you can do it in a very good-natured way. You can role model it. You can showcase it. One of the things that we did at NatWest was made a large cool wall, right? So people could say, "Here's what we love here. Here's what we don't love here," and we got the leadership to participate in that. So when they see the leaders doing it as well, and it's anonymous, so sometimes you can pull a dissent out from using anonymity. But find out what needs to be fixed. Find out what we could do better. Really embrace that. And I think a lot of places we just damp it down to try and then all we do is focus on the work. We don't focus on just that interaction. It's really hard to do. Yeah. And exiting. Anytime anyone goes, there should be a ceremony as well. Yeah. And anytime we often have leaving dues. But sometimes there'll be arguments and people leave. But there should be some way of marking it. I think, as my mother used to say, everyone makes her happy. Some when they come and some when they go. So I think if you look at the 5 dysfunctions of a team, one of the case studies in there, he was working with a leadership team, and it just didn't work until one of them left. Yeah. So again, exiting isn't a bad thing. It isn't something to be, celebrate people that have left as well. Don't go into the Stalinist school of falsification, where you just keep photoshopping people out of the picture. Yeah.
And othering. Very, very important topic. Who here, hands up if you know what othering is? If you heard the term? Okay, a few of you. So we talk about this quite a lot. So it's very important that when we try to create a sense of belonging, we don't end up othering. And in its simplest terms, othering is about creating a sense of us and them, right? Creating division. And you can see here, this is like a graphic again from Susie Weiss's book. It's brilliant, we love it. And it kind of speaks for itself. You look at some of these terms, they're quite powerful, right? They create sort of feelings and triggers, and they've got quite strong connotations, right? Feeling unwelcome. We don't get the introduction, right? People don't feel welcome. Feeling invisible, like they can't be seen and heard. They don't feel like they're part of anything. Uncomfortable. We don't create the safe space. They feel uncomfortable, right? They don't feel like they can get involved. Certainly they're not going to feel like they belong, and they're going to feel disconnected. And they might be disconnected because they feel disadvantaged in some way. Othering. We've got to make sure that we don't other.
Just a quick one on that. The last conversation I had with Bob Gallen, we were both talking about how the Agile community others people that maybe come from project management, or others people that come from waterfall. Yeah, almost in our language, we other people. Almost like what we do is better than anyone else. So I think we need to look at that. Yeah. Okay, this is an interesting one. This is I really recommend this book here. Oops. I didn't hit the laser button. Everyone Included. It's got this diagram, which I quite like. So everything here has got opposites on it. So there's a polarity, and the ones at the top are seen as, things as we'd probably see as a society privilege. And the ones at the bottom are as seen as some kind of oppression. And what we did was, for a bit of fun, I don't know, Saturday night seemed like fun. We looked at us and and what's similar about us. Everything that's similar about us is in purple. So, we are kind of dads. We are, yeah. That was only controversial one we had was if we were attractive. So we kind of put that into, we've got to, if you were kind of facially scarred or something, that's, So we could maybe have a pub vote for that one. Maybe we could have put it into Gabby's quiz.
How many bits that?
Well, we get more attractive with the beers. Is that it? Okay.
Just so we're clear, I tried to encourage him to take that one out because we had a debate.
Okay. But if you look at the differences, obviously Saf's dark-skinned. He comes from a Punjabi background. But this one here is one we talked about earlier. So I've got, ADHD, dyslexia, and Saf completes me. Do you want a hug? No. What do you want a hug?
Come on, get on with the talk.
Okay. Right, on you go.
Right, so let's start to bring it to life a little bit. Some real world examples, and we're going to help you think about how you might want to take this into your workplaces. Yeah, so this one's quite interesting very quickly, but when you think about this is really about taking responsibility, right? Holding yourself accountable, getting involved, and I guess we often quote Gandhi here, don't we, when we say be the change you want to see. So in short, really what this is all about. You want to see these things change, you want to make impact, you want to improve situation. Well, don't wait for someone else to do it. Get involved, make a difference yourself. Right, so this is a little bit closer to my day job. I mentioned my organisation earlier. So they've been doing a lot of incredible work over the last few years in the diversity and inclusion space. I want to be much more inclusive and create a much more diverse workforce, especially across tech. So one of the things we've identified through a lot of the work that we do, and I work across the engineering community in NatWest, I've launched a lot of their community initiatives, is we still have a fairly unhealthy gender ratio, right? So we've still got considerably more, male engineers than we do female engineers. So we've got a lot of effort to try to really improve that in a number of initiatives. And we've partnered with organisations like Tech She Can and Code for Skills, and we've done a lot of fantastic work, and I've been involved in those things personally, and we're starting to see the difference, but there's still a long way to go. Still a long way to go. And also, some of our initiatives are actually focused in on trying to support some of those disadvantaged groups. So earlier this year, we launched a unique initiative in Scotland where we actually were focusing to help Ukrainian women who'd actually come over to Scotland, were living in Scotland, had been displaced by the conflict. We were helping them not only get into work, but giving them the opportunity to perhaps become permanent members of our engineering workforce and teams across the organisation. So this one's really starting to think about, if you're going to try to tackle these things in your organisations, there are a number of different aspects that you need to think about. Again, it's a visual we really like. You'll see the source at the bottom there. But in short, really, you've got to think about the different dimensions of diversity. So we've talked about diversity, but in real terms, that's some of the things you need to think about there. There are a number of aspects to how you've got to tackle this in an organisation. And like a lot of things, you've got to take both a top-down approach and a ground-up approach. Should people, in the teams, be able to feel like they can contribute and are valued at an individual level, create the right sort of environments within teams. And top down, you want your leadership to really kind of be pushing this, having a clear vision, and making sure that they have the process to support them. And those processes are fair. Otherwise, you're really going to struggle to make any impact in this space. Again, if you think about some of the key drivers there, there's a whole bunch of things there that are quite important. Make sure you support personal development, growth. Celebrate people. They do well, recognise them for it. Communication's always got to be strong. I bang on about this all the time. We see such poor communication in organisations. Future visions, we've heard that get mentioned throughout the day. Make it clear, communicate it, share it, help people understand it so they can align to it. And that comes through good leadership and trust in your leadership. When your leadership's authentic, you can make that sort of thing work really, really well. And that's how you help get people involved. And then all of this really in the end, that's what the result is if you get it right. But you've got to keep working at it. So at an individual level, a team level, and at an organisational level, that's how you create a sense of belonging. And really what we're actually trying to say is, so when engagement's strong, people feel valued. We've seen a lot of surveys over the last few years through Gallup and others who show that engagement levels are as low as 33%. So engagement's good, performance is good, organisations can meet their outcomes, right? And alongside that, from the previous slide, if you're able to lean in and create this true sense of belonging, people stay. They stay, they feel valued, they want to be involved, and that's going to do a lot of good to your retention figures. People are not walking away and looking for employment elsewhere.
Okay, back to the book I'm in love with by Helen May. Here's some things to think about with the 5 principles of belonging. Let's start up here. So everybody included, everyone thrives. Yeah. And I think that's everything we've tried to do in the Agile community. Everything we try and build, we try and build this in. And to make that belonging culture, you need consistency and transparency. Not just like this month we're going to do diversity, and then next month we forget it, or we've had one court filing from someone that raised something, so we're going to focus on it for the next 6 months, and then we forget about it again. This needs to be in the DNA, and that needs integrity as well. So it can't be seen as just an initiative you're doing. You need the leadership, you need middle management, you need everybody involved in understanding why it's important. Moving down to empowered people. Yeah, so agency is really important. How many people actually feel they have agency in what they do? Even sometimes with the Agile ceremonies, I feel sometimes we take agency from people because we've got such set patterns that we have to do. Yeah. Curiosity, which we obviously encourage, and Stuart was talking about that, but also open-mindedness. And I don't remember the last time we kind of focused on open-mindedness in the work context. People come to work with their biases. What we're doing about unlearning biases. Okay, moving over to connected teams. So again, the dynamism, the self-direction or self-management, but also having a collective consciousness. Play together. That's my biggest advice as a team. Do things socially. One of the teams we had in London, we used to, like once a month, we'd all take dishes in from like where we were kind of brought up, and then we put it in a big buffet, and then we'd taste each other's foods. So we're kind of celebrating the differences. Easily to do that at the team level, but don't force everyone to go bowling. Find something you all like doing. And in our community, online gaming is usually quite good. Yeah, and then leaders as facilitators. So leaders need to step into this whole sense of belonging. And again, we can sense it from feedback. We can do surveys. We can do do lots of stuff. On the table, we've got red, yellow, green. It's easy to get feedback. Create a belonging plan. Again, I took sort of elements of Helen's book, and I'll put a tweet on in a bit about this. But basically, recognize that everyone's got a desire for belonging. When I was in the corridor, the chap outside says, in 5 words, put belonging. And I said, okay, on the spot, basic need for human connection. I think everyone here has got a basic need for human connection. I could be wrong, but at some level. Again, challenge automatic categorization. Everyone's complicated. Cultivate self-awareness. Embrace diversity and inclusion. Foster empathy. There's been a lot of work in the community by Alex and others about technical empathy and things. But to understand each other, we need to take time away from the work to share things. My good friend Craig there, is completely neurotypically different to me. And it's difficult for me to understand him because we're just completely different, but we spend time talking about it. And if you are, write about who you are as well. One way to learn is to read. And that's part of the education of ourselves. And we need to unlearn biases, but we also need to be just more than just participants. We need to be advocates. Okay. So if you hear people making slurs against the Spanish, you need to shout "Code of Connection." And again, foster that sense of belonging. It should be a precious thing. It should be something that's in everyone's performance review. How are we doing it? I quit my job and went off to look at ESG. And in ESG, we've got the environment, which I'm very passionate about, and I got converted at Nashville. We've got the social stuff, which the diversity stuff we'd always been very strong on, and we built it into our festival. And then there's kind of governance. And And I'm really so connected now that I'm actually speaking out about this stuff and getting involved in this stuff. So I encourage you to become an advocate. Okay, when you move from being someone that this is, you're part of a faceless system into something where you feel agency and you can be an advocate for others, it's so exciting. One of the things I did, just as soon as I quit, I got asked if I could go and do some work in Uganda. So I went out to Uganda. A bit worried about, obviously, the political situation out there is a bit difficult, but went out and met the people. On Saturday, on a TripAdvisor reference, I went to Social Innovation Museum. It wasn't a museum, it was actually where they were taking adolescents and helping them start jobs. And when they started talking, this is confidence there. When she started talking about their method, it was just agile. It's anything we'd recognize, you know. They take them through, what's your product, how are you delivering it, what's your tests, everything else. But one thing I found when I got there was that the locals had stolen their laptops. So they were taking, you know, women and young children and giving them ICT skills, but they couldn't do that without any laptops. So I said, when I get back, I'm going to get the Agile community involved. And Jose, thank you very much. Part of the option is raising some money. If you want to use the barcode, that's a meetup that we've got, and Scott Ambler will be there, and Bob's going to be there. So you can get a chance to chat with them, and we're going to hear confidence. We're going to hear the German guy that started that, Etienne. And we're going to hear about what they're doing. And it's really great to see these people on a hill running a holocracy in the middle of the Ugandan countryside, which is a very dysfunctional country in many ways. It took 2 hours to get there, and it was only about 20 miles just on the roads. And it was just amazing to see Agile being talked at by young people. And they were explaining it to me, and I'm like, wow, this is so exciting. So that's why I'm helping them. But again, it's part of the social advocacy. You know, be an advocate, do things, help people. Nobody else is going to do it.
And as we bring our session to a close, we've got one sort of last thing for you all, and we'd like to invite you, encourage you all to be the reason someone feels welcome, seen, heard, valued, and loved, as we do when we come into Lean Agile London, year after year. And yeah, thanks for your time, thanks for listening, and hopefully we might have time for one question. So these are references to the books that we've used, we've researched to pull this content together. Scott and I are very passionate about this stuff. We're here for the next couple of days, so reach out, say hi, come talk with us, ask us the difficult questions, ask him the difficult questions. And thanks again.